Well, this is certainly a kick in the pants. I'm both pissed and extremely happy at the same time. Well, I've obviously been using Nikon for well over 25 years, and I think I've got like 29 or 30 plus Nikon speedlights. I was upset at the fact that there's no TTL option or easy speedlight option for Fuji. However, they have adopted a Canon speedlight and also the use of a Sunpack speedlight, which has been rebranded with Fuji's name. However, that is a very cheap speedlight and not something that I would rely on professionally. However, as is the case with the SB700, which is not this one, or the SB800, which is the one just before this, and the 900 and the 910, the current flagship speedlight, I was under the impression that I could not use Nikon speedlight cables such as this SC29 speedlight cable with the Fuji system. Now, admittedly so, I'm somewhat new to Fuji, but certainly so, obviously not to photography nor strobist work. As it turns out, apparently, even one of Nikon's, now this is no slant against Zach Arias, I love the guy to death, but apparently he doesn't know about this because this information might exist somewhere, maybe on some Fuji forum, but it turns out that the Fuji X-T1 here and the X-T10, also obviously so, will work with my mountain of Nikon speedlights. And not only, obviously, of course, it will not work in TTL mode, but a lot of people that are button sniffers and, they think they need. Now, a professional photographer with very, very expensive studio strobes is, of course, using everything in manual. You do not need TTL speedlights. You do for a very small selection of certain things, but the next best thing, and most people don't know anything about speedlights. Even a lot of professionals that have been shooting for years, they don't know much about speedlights. What does work with the Fuji X-T1 and the X-T10, as it turns out, to my great amazement, because nobody told me this, including Fuji's own sponsored shooters, that they bemoaned the lack of the spectrum of TTL or a flash capacity with the Fuji system, but it turns out with my SB 900s or 910s or 800s with the flash cable, give you SC28 or SC29 like this, that I can use auto aperture flash mode. Now you can refer to that in C5 of the user manual, which is a free download from Nikon. Auto aperture, well, how close is auto aperture to TTL? Well, in about 95% of circumstances, it is 90%, if not more, as accurate and as useful as TTL flash photography. Now, it is the case that pre-flash information is not sent from the Fuji camera to the speedlight, and what it does is it actually sends out pre-flashes to monitor reflectance to determine total output. But what happens is that since there's no aperture information transmitted to the SB910 or 900 or SB800 or SB700, the flash mode is automatically set to non-TTL auto flash. Now, anybody that's been shooting for 15 years or more will tell you, and I guess there's not a lot of those people left, and they're not shooting mirrorless, maybe that's the reason why this information isn't out there, that auto aperture flash mode with an Nikon speedlight is really, really damn good. I mean, it is in some instances, and this is no exaggeration or opinion of mine, auto aperture flash mode is more accurate than TTL flash photography. Yes, that is the case. Now, once the speedlight sends out flash, once you take the picture, there's a little sensor right here that monitors the amount of reflectance that's coming off the subject, and it cuts off at a certain point. So the Fuji X-T1 and X-T10, now I'm obviously relatively new to the Fuji system, but this information was not out there, and it wasn't even given to me by Fuji's own sponsored shooters. A couple of which were, and rightfully so, bemoaning the lack of an ecosystem for flash photography for Fuji. But auto aperture flash mode, I had no idea that this would work on the Fuji. I mean, this information is not present out there. Maybe it exists in some nook of some Fuji corner, but it works wonderfully. I've been testing for many hours now, both difficult situations, high reflective situations, various angles, and it is exactly what I've been doing for 25 years before TTL photography existed. Auto aperture is exquisite. I am as 95% as well as you should be, as confident using auto aperture flash mode as a button sniffer. I hate to use that term in a derogatory fashion. Someone that wants automatic control over everything, like someone that has a $5,000 DSLR and he only shoots in program mode. Well, the same thing applies to flash photography. Auto aperture works exquisitely well, and I am so incredibly happy that the one seemingly, however incorrect, partially incorrect, or greatly incorrect downside to the Fuji ecosystem was its lack of speedlights, was its lack of TTL flash photography. But that's not the case. With my well, I don't have a 700 anymore, but I have tons of speedlights. But the SB800s and my 900s and 910s, they work exquisitely well in auto aperture flash mode. And auto aperture flash mode, I'm sure you're not familiar with it because most people are just not that familiar with speedlights, is incredibly damn accurate. Excuse my language. You see that A right there? Let me focus in a little bit for you. Right there, that A, that is auto aperture flash mode. Okay, now I can go right here and set my aperture. Now pre-flashes are not sent out because there's not the aperture information sent from the Fuji to my Nikon Speedlight, but I don't need that. And let me tell you, I've done a lot of testing. I didn't jump and make this video for you to see this information. You find out, well, it has limitations. Well, now I've been using auto aperture now for 20 years, and it is, like I said, in some instances is more accurate than TTL flash photography. I absolutely assure you with 100% certainty, after enormous amount of testing, that this Fuji X-T1, and I've tested the X-T10, works exquisitely. If you have like a Nikon SB700 or SB800, you have an SC28 flash cable. Since you're not doing TTL photography, an SC28 flash cable is more than sufficient. This is a 29, of which I have many thereof. But like an SC28 flash cable, it works excellently. Now, I'm not interested in mounting this honking speedlight on top of this little Fuji system. And, the first commandment that I've told you about, since you're not a photojournalist, or maybe you are, is get the darn speedlight, get the darn strobe off of your camera, okay? So that's why it's not sitting on top of the camera. Certainly so it will work in auto aperture mode on the camera, but that is really obnoxious. I mean, that's like sticking an elephant on top of a Volkswagen, so it shouldn't be there to begin with for obvious reasons of composition and illumination, unless you're a photojournalist. But, I'm absolutely stunned. I'm incredibly happy, but at the same time pissed, because it has taken me this long to come to the realization that this works beautifully. Why didn't somebody else out there tell me? Oh, by the way, the Fuji system works perfectly well in non-TTL auto flash mode. See, the SB910 sensor, or 700, or 800, or 900, for non-TTL auto flash mode measures the flash that is reflected from the subject. The speedlight controls the flash output level according to the reflected flash data that is sensed right here. You see that little spot right there? It looks like a screw hole. Well, that's not a screw hole. So, and Fuji's own, I'm not disparaging Fuji's own sponsored shooters, but a couple of them have bemoaned, the very, very glaring fact that the Fuji ecosystem is devoid of you know, some awesome speed lights to better, and of course, as I've told you many times before, you know, 85% of professional photography is speed light use. Well, folks, I've got some information to tell you, and most of you out there don't know it, okay, because most people are afraid of speed lights. You got into photography in the past 10 years, and if it's like not TTL photography, then you are really afraid of doing it. Well, you're going to have to learn about this if you got a Fuji, but rest assured, I tell you with my hand on a stack of Bibles or whatever it is you want me to put my hand on, that auto flash mode is 90-95% as good as TTL flash photography, and in some instances it is more accurate than TTL flash photography. So this is really good news if you're a Fuji shooter of the X-T1 or X-T10 system. I mean, this is incredible. And, you know, I guess I should apologize for this, or maybe it's because I'm new to the Fuji ecosystem, relatively so. I mean, 25 years with Nikon versus, you know, half a year, less than that with Fuji. Yeah, it's definitely less than half a year. But nobody told me this, including Fuji's own sponsored shooter. So this is really good news. Refer to C5 of your user manual on the SB910 speed light. But now this system has become fulfilled. I mean, all I need, I do not need TTL. I mean, I can get by with manual flash photography on everything. As I've told you before, using this completely wirelessly with a pocket lizard, that's what I call them, pocket lizards, with a pocket lizard on top of my Fuji X-T1 and a pocket lizard velcroed to the side of my speed light for a remote flash trigger. So I'm perfectly happy with manual, but the fact that I know that I can use auto aperture mode now on my Fuji ecosystems on the X-T1s and the X-T10s, that's mind-blowing. That's stunning. That's excellent, incredible news. So I thought I'd let you folks out there know that have Nikon speed lights, or you want to grab like an old SB800, which you can snag. All the professionals, by the way, as I've told you before, buy Nikon SB800 speed lights because they're a lot simpler and they actually have more power output than the SB910. SB910 is an incredibly complex machine. Of course, it's $550, but it is an exquisite little camera. I mean, excuse me, speed light. But that, of course, is the best money for your value, is like a used SB800, which is on eBay usually about 190 bucks. Far better choice than purchasing a SB700, certainly so, and even more so than the SB900. But all of those will work. So, good news, if you're a Fuji owner, you have something that is as good as TTL flash photography, and why wasn't I told this? You know, how come there's no information out there about this? So I'm actually stunned, partially pissed, but ultimately incredibly happy. So good news for you. I guarantee you this works. I've done a lot of testing, and it is awesome news. Okay? Thanks for watching. Bye.